welcoming you Gooshbagz to week 2 edition of the 2020 Gooshbagz Fantasy Football League podcast. I am your host, the commissioner of the Gooshbagz Fantasy Football League and the reigning champ, of course. It is going to be a great week because this week I have Neil with me today. How are you doing, Neil?
I'm doing great. I'm tired as hell, but I'm doing fantastic.
That's what you get for a day full of teaching young children.
That's what is shaping young minds.
But how did you feel about this fantasy football / NFL week in general? Hitting you with a
NFL
question.
week wise, as most of the league knows, I'm a big Packers fan.
Sure.
Packers took care of business relatively easy this last week.
Yes, they did.
Fantasy wise, not so great. I got a little unlucky with some injuries. I got a little unlucky with my matchup, and particularly the late games did not go the way I would have liked.
Yeah. Well, speaking of injuries, that is kind of the big news in week 2. There were even more. I thought there were a lot of injuries last week. There were even more injuries in week 2.
And there was so many fantasy relevant injuries this week.
Yeah, super significant injuries. If you had the first or second pick of the draft, you are not happy because you probably either drafted CMC or Saquon, and both of them got hurt. Saquon is obviously much more severe. He tore his ACL, and he's out for the season. So that left people scrambling for somebody.
Yeah, just a warm body.
Mm-hmm. So
you want to talk about?
I was just gonna say, they just assigned Devonta Freeman. What do you think? How do you think that'll play out for the Giants?
I think, I don't know if he's in football ready shape at this point. And I know he waited, but I don't know the reason why he waited to sign.
I think he was asking for more money, but then he signed a relatively small contract. Go ahead.
Hopefully, he's in shape. But just staying in shape is different from taking hits every Sunday.
Yeah.
Devonta Freeman has had issues in the past holding up for an extended period of time.
Yep.
Good thing for the Giants, they have two other warm bodies at least that are NFL running backs.
Yeah. They filled in adequately last year when Saquon was down for a few weeks. And it's bad luck for Saquon. He had that injury last year, and then week 2 this year he's out for the year. So such a huge talent that is unfortunately not going to be playing for a year and a half because of injury.
Yeah.
But Christian McCaffrey also got hurt, as I said. He has a high ankle sprain, and he just got put on IR today, I think. And he's out for at least 3 weeks. They were saying it might be 4 to 6 weeks. So. Yeah,
and that leaves a lot of people scrambling. A lot of people counted on that RB spot to be consistent every week. It was so far.
Yeah.
But now they're obviously scrambling, and they're looking to pick up on CMC's backup, Mike Davis.
Yep.
You want to talk about where Mike Davis went in our league?
Mike Davis went for $55 in our fantasy football league this week.
And what's our budget?
And our budget's $100. So what was it? It was Adam, right? Adam ended up spending over half of his budget for a potential 3 to 4 week replacement. So, I mean, that'll probably help his team hit. Yeah, I mean, he might end up beating me this week because he has Mike Davis in his running back 3. But we'll see. I mean, I think the reason Christian McCaffrey was so good was because he was just utilized so much. Like, he's a great running back. And he's a great pass catcher. So we'll see if Mike Davis,
especially in PPR leagues, that is huge.
Right.
Like, are we half or full point PPR?
We're half.
But still,
yeah.
I mean, they treat him. He's on the field for every offensive play essentially.
Yeah. Exactly.
Whether it's a passing down or a running down.
Right. So we'll see if Deion Lewis can take his whole workload. We know that Mike Davis is a pretty good pass catcher. We'll see if he can hold up in the running game as well. I'm not too sure that he will be able to succeed as well as Christian McCaffrey. He'll be a good replacement and he'll put up good numbers, but I don't think it'll be Christian McCaffrey numbers.
Yeah, there's not very many Christian McCaffreys out there.
Right. So, in other news on the, I guess we'll go with the last running back I have on here. Raheem Mostert was kind of a big starter name. He sprained his MCL, so he's for sure out this week. He might be out multiple weeks. They don't know. They haven't put him on IR, so they're thinking it's will be a 1 or 2 week absence. But
luckily, I don't know. I don't know who owns Raheem Mostert in our league. Do you know off the top of your head?
I think it's Courts.
Well, Mostert, I think first drive of the game, he had a big run, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And that really bailed out his owners before he went down.
Yeah. I'll have to double check that. Is that Andrew? Right. Yeah, I'll have to double check that. But also Cortland Sutton. So that's just a 1 or 2 week. Jerick McKinnon might be able to fill in. Also Jeff Wilson, who wasn't active last game, or he was active, but he just didn't get much work because Mostert got hurt close to the end of the game. But yeah, so I mean that'll be a 1 or 2 week sort of deal. Yeah, those Courts, that's Mostert. So he lost CMC and Mostert this week, so he's scrambling at the running back position. Yeah, and the last person that I have on here is wide receiver Cortland Sutton. Unfortunately, he also tore his ACL and is out for the season. So that just leaves. I picked up Noah Fant. Oh, yes. That's looking great the rest of the season. I might use him in a flex, like he could be flex worthy if he keeps going. Plus Cortland Sutton's gone, so those targets got to go somewhere.
Yeah, you know where you got him from?
Yeah, after you dropped him to waivers, you crazy.
Yeah,
I don't know why you did
story
that.
for the funny story for the people out there in Fantasyland. The night of the draft, I was playing in the Chicago Pickleball Open, which was actually in Naperville. And there was a rain delay. So I started playing my first round around 6 o'clock. And I didn't get done till after the draft was almost over. Yep. So I saw 2 tight ends, and I thought I don't need 2 tight ends. Probably my fault for not paying more attention to the news. I saw a tight end that I didn't recognize.
Yeah.
Got rid of him.
Well, he was a rookie last year, and wasn't great for most of the year. But then the last few weeks he was good, and then they were projecting him to get a pretty big workload this year. Like he was kind of like one of those super athletic tight ends that and tight ends normally don't break out year one. So some people were on the hype train. They were like, oh, this guy's got all the athletic skill. He's going to be a beast. A lot of people were saying that year one he's going to be great. But rarely does a tight end, even like a Travis Kelce or a George Kittle, they don't break out year one. So Noah Fant, breakout year 2. So we'll see if he continues. But I picked him up because I needed a replacement for George Kittle. So I grabbed him, and I'm planning on hanging on. At least if George Kittle gets better, then I have him as a trade piece. And if not, then who knows?
Do you know how long Kittle is out for?
They were saying he might be back. I actually put him back in my starting lineup, but he had a bone bruise, which is usually 1 or 2 weeks. I think he had the same thing last year, and he was out for 2 weeks. So we'll see. But he played through he was still a beast. He played through it. So once he came back, I think they were saying it still bothered him a little bit, but he was fine. But yeah. Anyways, we'll see what Noah Fant does, but he has a chance to step up here since Cortland Sutton is out. And also Jerry Jeudy, and KJ Hamler, I think, is also a potential gets uptick in targets here. You get the insider scoop because I listen to all the fantasy football podcasts, so you get to maybe go out and grab KJ.
George Kittle, that's a lot. George Kittle, that's a lot of targets, and it's not necessarily. It's probably going to be spread out more because there's not one person to really dominate, especially considering Deebo Samuel is out for a few more weeks still. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll see. But anyway, moving on to fantasy football news. the top scorer in this league this week was the running Mayfields, and I know we all gave him crap after the draft. He was like, "Oh, thank you so much for these great players," and we all looked at his lineup and were like, "Dude, that team, it's I guess the way I looked at it, it was all a boomer bust team. He didn't have any sort of like consistent players, so I guess this week they all boomed." He
Yeah,
had huge weeks from Russell Wilson and Nick Chubb, and
I'm going to be honest. I hated my team. I was happy I was not in Brandon's shoes at the time.
yeah,
Yeah, he did boom, especially
he's got
Russell
Russell
Wilson.
Wilson, man. That was
Russell
great.
Wilson
Yeah.
quietly once again putting out a great year so far.
Oh, it's not quiet. Everybody's freaking out about Russell Wilson. He's finally getting those passing. Like before, he was only throwing like somewhere between 20 and 30 passes a game. Like if that, it was all running, and then like he would throw like 3 touchdowns on like 25 passes or something crazy. And then this year, I think both of them have been like close to 40 or over 40 pass attempts. So like he's been going nuts, and they're actually letting him play, and he's staying as efficient as he was, and he's just a beast. So
And when Chris Collinsworth said this, I was very surprised. Russell Wilson has never gotten an MVP vote.
well, he's shooting for it this year.
It looks like it, along with a few others so far.
Oh yeah.
It's
But
a
anyway,
long season.
it is a long season. So let's move into the week 2 matchup reactions. So the first matchup, of course, is our matchup. It was Feast Mode versus Mix and Mac. Feast Mode ended up feasting with Cam Newton as we take down Mix and Mac this week. Feast Mode won 118.08 points to 104.76 points. Now this was closer than I thought it was going to be because those last couple games you had Darren Waller playing, and he ended up going nuts. But let's go with your studs first. So you had Darren Waller, who put up 22.3 fantasy points. He had a fantastic day.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was a little too. It was too little.
Too little, too late.
Yeah, I found myself in the hole going into that night game.
Yeah, quite a bit.
I was lucky to get auto drafted Jonathan Taylor, who it looks like to be picking up where Marlon Mack left off last year in Indianapolis.
Yep. Yeah.
And in his rookie year so far, he's grinding away.
The whole question with Jonathan Taylor, 18 points. The whole question with Jonathan Taylor was when he was going to take over that backfield. And it seemed like, we weren't sure when Mixon Mack was still, Marlon Mack. Your team name screws me up. When Marlon Mack was going to be kind of slowly rescind his handle on the workload, but Jonathan Taylor really didn't have to face that because Marlon Mack got hurt week 1. So he definitely took over for sure.
Yeah, week 1, 9 carries for 22 yards and no touchdowns. Week 2, they said let the man eat.
Mm-hmm.
26 carries, 101 yards, a touchdown, and being a little bit more included or not. Last week he was included in the passing game more, so it's 6 receptions for 66 yards. This week they treated him more like a true 3-down running back, and he only had 2 receptions for 9 yards.
Yeah, well, I think the reception totals went way down because they were ahead most of that game. So, so they didn't have to pass the ball. Like Nyheim Hines wasn't a factor at all after being a beast last week. So, I think it was just more of a matter of game script, and that might be different if they end up, coming from behind in a game. So you might see Jonathan Taylor with more receptions in the future.
Well, yeah, I think because they have Nyheim Hines there, ready to get that passing down work. I think his ceiling in PPR leagues especially is a little bit capped. Yeah. But then again, if you're handing the ball off 26 times to the guy, it's fine. You're fine.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I wouldn't be super concerned. I think, Nyheim Hines, like you said, it's going to be a little bit of a cap, but I think Jonathan Taylor's pretty much the workhorse. So going on to your last stud of the week that I have on here, at least, James Conner at 19.1 fantasy points. And did you feel confident in starting James Conner this week? Because there were some concerns about injury or just him being bad. people were concerned about whether or not to start him.
I really paid close attention to the news that was coming out of Pittsburgh leading up to that game. I think I made my decision pretty close to the game start time.
Yeah.
I last week I made sure to pick up Benny Snell, the backup, in case
Right.
anything went awry with Connor. But I did believe that if he was going to play, I would start him.
Right.
Just he's so talented, and
He is.
he's shown it in previous years.
Yeah, anytime he's been out on the field, he's been great. It's just a matter of he gets hurt quite a bit, so you never know.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, your duds here. We have Buffalo's. The only one I could think of was your defense. They had -1 against Miami, though. Like, they gave up points to Miami. So,
31 points.
Which is surprising. Buffalo kind of had a tough time against them, but
yeah, you would think that, but maybe something's cooking in Miami.
Oh shoot, maybe they could be. I mean, yeah, actually, Miami they were on a pretty good spree at the end of last year. So yeah, who knows? Maybe they're picking up steam here.
Miami's actually 0-2 right now. I just looked it up.
I mean, I think they played two good games though. Yeah. So
game 1 they scored 11 points.
Well, maybe not then. Well, they gave the Bills a fight, which I'm surprised because I thought that the Bills might be the top in that division this year, but it might be the Patriots again. But speaking of the Patriots, let's move on to my studs. I
do have one dud. I have one more dud I wanted to add to your list.
What's your dud?
So I had to find a replacement for Chris Godwin, right? Chris Godwin hurt.
Yeah.
Happens. I had my bench was very running back heavy. The only receiver I had on my bench was Deebo Samuel, who was out for I think 2 or 3 more weeks. So I had to do an emergency pickup, and I picked up Paris Campbell. Well, I was actually surprised I got, because he could be the top pass catcher for Phillip Rivers, and Phillip Rivers, he'll throw the ball a lot, even if he's losing.
Right. Especially if he's losing.
Exactly, yeah. And he's used to that coming out of San Diego. I still call it San Diego.
Right.
0.7 points. He got hurt early on, didn't get to do anything with that. That was a big dud. I think if my 2 duds had done a little better, I think this would have been a much closer game.
I definitely would have, but unfortunately for you, unfortunately for me, they didn't. So
I just wanted to point out that feast mode didn't really feast. They were the 5th highest scoring team out of 8.
No, I know. We had the first 2 weeks we both had very high scoring games, like in the 130s and 140s, which is insane. Yeah. Like multiple matchups. So but I did have like a bunch of players on my bench who were like 15 or above. Like I had that doesn't count towards the points of our matchup, obviously, but I had Deontay Johnson, James Robinson on my bench, John Brown also on my bench. So I could have been up close to that 130, 140 number, but if I played right.
When do you think you're going to start your boy James Robinson?
This week, my man. He's got a great matchup against Miami, and I am playing him. He's playing tomorrow. They play Thursday night. Yeah. So anyway, on to my studs from last week. I had Cam Newton with 34.58 points. Cam Newton is back, baby. Like he threw, which you don't see Cam Newton throwing the ball. He threw for almost 400 yards this week. It was insane. I'm so stoked seeing those passing numbers.
Pass numbers. He looks like he's back from injury completely.
Yeah.
There's a lot of teams that regret not signing him. But just imagine the last play of that game. They were 2 or 3 yards out, and they ran it up the middle, and it didn't work out.
I know. That would have been an extra 6 points.
You're looking at above a 40-point game if that works.
I know. That would have been great.
That's insane.
Dude, I'm so glad I took a shot on Cam Newton as one of my last picks. Like, I was so happy. Like, I was frustrated that I didn't get Josh Allen Adam grabbed Josh Allen right before me, I think. But, Cam Newton is, he's been great as well. So my other two that I pointed out were Dalvin Cook with 16.1 points and Noah Fant with 15.7 points. But, like, those were okay. Dalvin Cook didn't do much until, like, the very end of the game. And then Noah Fant also had a touchdown, which kind of boosted his numbers. So it was definitely a good, like, decent games from, most of my team. So my only dud, I put the New Orleans defense because they only put up 3 points. So Las Vegas, though, did you watch that game?
Las Vegas Raiders, Gruden's back, baby.
Dude, they look so good. They look so good.
That offense is firing on all cylinders right now.
Maybe
Gruden has finally talked some sense into Derek Carr over there.
Maybe he has.
Things are looking good.
They are. All right, moving
and that
on.
new stadium.
Sorry, go ahead.
That new stadium is gorgeous.
Oh, it is. It's dope.
It's awesome.
It's really cool how they have it. It's like all black, like the seats are black. Like, it looks dope. I like it. It's sleek.
Yeah.
But all right, moving on to matchup number 2. We have the Breeze Knees versus Zerline. I never hit you. You're tearing me apart. So Breeze Knees took down Zerline. I never hit you. 117.58 points to 90.2 points, led by the Hig Beast, Tyler Higbee, with 3 touchdowns to beat a meager-looking Zerline. I never hit you. So let's start with the Breeze Knees and Tyler Higbee. I guess I didn't really watch a lot of this game, but, like, I was just very impressed with how involved Tyler Higbee was. Like, maybe I shouldn't be because he was all the second half of last year, but, like, Robert Woods didn't get all the work that I thought he was going to get. It's, a lot of those touchdown looks went to Tyler Higbee. So
he had 5 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns, but he was only thrown to 5 times.
Yeah, he had 5 catches for 3 touchdowns. He was only looked to in the red zone.
Exactly, yeah, and there's nobody saw this coming. Look, 3 receptions for 40 yards in the first game.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, he did have a good second half of the year last year, so they switched. Like, Gerald Everett was their starting tight end, and he got hurt at the end of last year. And they started switching to, like, 12 personnel, which is, like, 2 tight ends. And Tyler Higbee was going off and just wrecking people. He was doing this, not 3 touchdowns, but close. Like, he was like tight end. He was close to tight end 1 for those last few games. So it shouldn't be a surprise.
It just shows that Goff is looking his way in the red zone.
That's for sure. So the Breeze Knees also had Zeke going for 19.2 fantasy points. That's not really a surprise, Zeke being Zeke. And then Justin Tucker put up 16 points, which also really isn't much of a surprise, seeing as he's on one of the highest powered offenses in the league. So
16 points is a lot for the kicker.
It is a lot, yeah. But, I mean, if anybody's going to do it, it's Justin Tucker. So.
Or Harrison Butker.
Yeah, it's true. Hey, he basically put up 16 points by himself on the last kick, He had, like, 3 kicks for over 50 yards.
3 straight 50-plus yard field goals.
Yeah.
I don't know if you still listen to Pat McAfee's show, but he was interviewed on there the other day.
Oh, was he?
And he just said he thought that they iced him twice, so he just got pissed. He just got pissed instead of not missing him.
Yeah,
It's
nice.
actually pretty funny.
That's awesome. But no, I didn't listen to that episode. I listen to it every once in a while, but I haven't been listening to it as much frequently. But in the duds category for the Breeze Knees, we had Jarvis, like around 6 points, David Johnson and Jarvis Landry. That's not too bad. Not too much of a dud, but you're looking for a little bit more maybe. And then Malcolm Brown at 0.7.
Especially in a PPR league, you're looking for more out of Landry.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I guess OBJ did have a good week this week, so that's kind of the trade-off, unfortunately. Last year, Jarvis looked like the wide receiver 1, but now it's, OBJ maybe take him back over. But
yeah, I think OBJ has been whispering into Baker's ear over the offseason.
Throw me the ball.
And probably mesmerizing him with his dance moves, too.
Yeah, right. So, on to Zerline, I never hit you. His studs this week, he had David Montgomery with 20.2 fantasy points. He had a great game. And he was looking much better than he did last year. And then Greg Zuerlein with 11 points. I put that because he's hurting for studs this week. So, yeah, he had a rough week. He had Julio Jones, who I think got pulled early because he was hurt, and also Devontae Adams, both of them, I think, with hamstring injuries. Um, Julio had 3.4 points, and Devontae Adams had 5.1 points. He also got a big 0 from Tennessee's defense, so that really didn't help him at all.
Giving up 30 points. Yeah. You're looking at Atlanta's wide receiving core: Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know
Fantastic.
who I would rather have more.
Ridley's Calvin Ridley.
Great.
Yeah, I would much rather have Calvin Ridley. He looks at him in the red zone. He's got 4 touchdowns over the first 2 weeks.
Thinking it's Julio Jones. It's Julio Jones, but
yeah, but Julio doesn't get touchdowns
on his own team.
Yeah, Julio doesn't get touchdowns. I think this is the year. This is the year that Calvin Ridley kind of jumps over Julio Jones. It seems like it so far. Anyway, we'll see. So far. Yeah, we'll see what the rest of the season holds. All right, on to matchup number 3. We have the running Mayfields versus my tight end Ertz when I fart. I always try to pronounce that differently, but maybe I should just say Eifert. I don't know. Anyway, the running Mayfields.
It's a creative one.
Yeah, right. The running Mayfields, like we said before, had 151.82 fantasy points to tight ends 130.5 fantasy points. So this was a high-scoring matchup. This was, 151 to 130. That's what you're looking for in a fantasy football matchup. So this was decided by Russell Wilson and Nick Chubb as the Mayfields ran right over the tight ends. So yeah, we talked about Russell Wilson and Nick Chubb. Well, more Russell Wilson. So he had 33.42 fantasy points. That was a great day. Nick Chubb, man, he's looking good. 25.8 fantasy points. He also had a pretty decent week 1 as well. Not as good, but solid. Surprising,
Yeah,
considering.
I'm looking at Brandon's team, and besides those 2, I think everybody got. Well, not everybody besides 2 got 13 points or higher.
Yeah, it's insane.
Pretty consistent. That's what you want in a fantasy team. Maybe it's not as boom or bust as we thought.
Well, I think that those players boomed this week, and that's why they all had over 13. That's my personal opinion. But, like a Mike Evans isn't going to get 19.9 each week. Nick Chubb isn't. I mean, he's pretty consistent. But let's go to this game.
I don't know. Mike Evans is the number 1 option for Tom Brady. He's proven that he's looking his way because I believe Mike Evans sat out week 1.
No, he was there. He had one catch for 2 yards and a touchdown. So he had six fantasy points. He did have a potential hamstring issue going into the game. So he might have been used limitedly. We'll see. I mean, yeah, like you said, maybe it's just a matter of Mike Evans was always inconsistent because he had Jameis Winston as his quarterback. I mean, that could be. But also Chris Godwin's there. Who knows who he ends up, turning to, if he turns to Mike Evans every week or not. Yeah, I mean, his team looks pretty good for the most part. I guess when I was looking at Boomer Bust, I was looking at the A.J. Brown and A.J. Green, Christian Kirk. Those are all on his bench this week, but those were the guys. And Mike Evans, and Mike Evans had a great game. Hayden Hurst, I didn't know how well he was going to do, if he was going to do well. So you never know. Those players kind of strike me as the Boomer Bust type, but who knows? That could change. So. He might have snuck one, pulled the rug from under all of us and just, picked a great team. But I don't think so. I'm sticking to my guns. So in his duds category this week, I just wrote down Todd Gurley. He had 6.1 fantasy points. He didn't really have too bad games from anybody, so I just had to pick one person to talk about. On the tight ends team, obviously, like you were saying, we have Calvin Ridley with 26.2 fantasy points with his 2 touchdowns. He was looking like a beast. Travis Kelce back in his number 1 spot here. Well, not quite number 1. He didn't have the highest points, but he put up a very good week, 19.5 fantasy points. Yep. That's back where he should be every week. Yeah, I mean, it was fine. And then Chris Carson put up 18.3 fantasy points. So that's, I mean, he had 2 touchdowns week 1, so that's why he also had like 18-ish, I think, week 1. But this time, I was concerned about his rushing work after week 1 because I think he only had 6 rushes. This week he had 17, so there's nothing to be worried about at all. And he looked like a beast out there. And then his only dud was Derrick Henry. I put for 8.2 fantasy points. Like, you're expecting more out of Derrick Henry. That's why I put him as a dud. But he had a pretty good lineup as well, just not as good as the running Mayfield.
Yeah, looking at his bench, I'm looking at his bench and I see Rob Gronkowski, and I don't know what's going on with him. Last week, week 1, 2 receptions on 3 targets. And then this last week, just now, no receptions on 1 target. What is going on with Gronk and Brady?
Nothing. I think it's more the offense that they're running this year. It's not the same offense that was in New England, and they're not looking his way as much. Bruce Arians is pretty well known as not using tight ends in any so everybody thought that Jordan Howard is also still on the Bucks. OJ Howard, not Jordan Howard. OJ Howard is still on the Bucks, and he's an athletic monster, and everybody thought he was going to break out last year, but then some people were saying, oh, it's the Bruce Arians system, they're never going to use the tight end. And I think there was actually a quote out today I saw that was basically Bruce Arians talking about Gronk, and he was like, we run we haven't had that many red zone opportunities, and I don't see him running 40 yards past people anymore. We brought him in to play tight end. If that means no catches, that means no catches. So that's kind of Bruce Arians' tight end. That's kind of his view on tight ends. So he doesn't really care for tight ends at all. But so I don't think people were talking up the Rob Gronkowski because he was coming back with Tom Brady. He thought he was going to be great, but I was never in on that. So, anyway, moving on to
looking good right now.
Yeah, no, we'll see. I mean, I could be proven wrong in the coming weeks, but I don't think so. So, matchup number 4, Go Team Tommy versus Big Ben's Bathtub. Not Big Ben's Bathroom. Big Ben's Bathtub, because Andrew likes to change his names around to reflect other people's. So it seemed to work this week because he put up 141.78 fantasy points versus James's 139.78 fantasy points. So he barely eked out that victory by exactly 2 points in decimal scoring. Got his exactly 2 points.
To the 100th place.
To the 100th place. He got a lucky break because CMC still put up a 22.8 point fantasy game before the injury. So yeah, he had a great game, before he got hurt. And then Josh Allen, 34.48 fantasy points. He was the guy who, kind of the Lamar Jackson of last year. I'm thinking, that was kind of I was hoping to get Josh Allen in the draft. Obviously, I didn't, but Josh Allen was a beast. So I was wrong. I thought Adam had him last year. That's what it was. Andrew has him this year, and he's been a beast.
I wasn't at the draft, so I wouldn't know.
You're right. And then Miles Sanders had 18.6 fantasy points. It's good to see that he came back strong and had a good game after his injury. So his only dud was Michael Gallup, I guess, for 6.8 fantasy points. So he had a pretty solid week overall as well.
Well, if it was, I would be adding Dallas Goedert to the dud. He got 5 points this week after courts put out a hefty sum to pick him up. That's true.
He did spend a lot of money to pick up Dallas Goedert. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, we'll see how it. I believe he is. Yeah, he's behind Zach Ertz in Philly. I know from week one it was looking good, but I still don't know how he spent. What was it, $30-some dollars? It's $100
Well, I
on
think
a backup tight end. I don't know. I definitely wouldn't have made that decision. But that being said, Courts has won this league a lot more time than I
Yeah, well,
have.
that's the thing.
Quite a
I
few more
mean,
times than I have.
he's not really a backup in that offense. So they run the 12 personnel a lot. Like they run two tight ends like a lot, a lot. So like, he's out there basically just as much as Zach Ertz is, and Carson Wentz has been looking his way, and they have like no wide receivers, or not too many wide receivers over there. They're kind of hurt. Jalen Reagor, I think, now is out for the year. Their rookie, who they're kind of hoping would kind of be on the opposite side of Deshaun Jackson. So now they really don't have much. Alshon Jeffrey's out. Like, is he even playing? I don't even know. Like, but he was hurt going into the year. So yeah, they just have no wide receivers.
Historically speaking, in that offense, it has not been able to support two fantasy relevant tight ends. Courts must think this is the year, but I am not sold on it just yet.
Well, the thing is, last year, he did do decent last year, didn't he? I'm pretty sure he did. Like him and Zach Ertz, I think Zach Ertz might have been hurt, or like there were times when Zach Ertz wasn't that great last year, and Dallas Goedert got a lot of the work. So like it's kind of been a 1A, 1B situation. Like one of them has a good game and one of them doesn't. That's kind of how I remember it. I know Dallas Goedert, he didn't really come in as kind of a fantasy relevant player to like maybe the middle or the second half of the year. So, but yeah,
I can see that he scored 5 touchdowns last year, and then 58 receptions on the year total.
That's not bad for.
If most of that came in the second half of the season, that is good. I mean, then again, Zach Ertz has proven to break down over the year.
Right.
So maybe Courts is looking at maybe he can fill a bigger role coming up too.
We'll see. Maybe. But anyway, Mix and Mac on a No, that's not Mix and Mac. You're Mix and Mac. Go Team Tommy. I forgot to change that name. Not that it matters now. Go Team Tommy. He had Pat Mahomes with 27.48 fantasy points. Pat Mahomes is being Pat Mahomes. That's just Pat Mahomes. So Aaron Jones, though. How about Aaron Jones? 43.6 fantasy points. What a beast. People were saying that.
A career day for Aaron Jones. Mm-hmm. But James must not feel that great because anytime you get 43.6 points from somebody and lose, and that's not a great look.
Over 20 from 2 other people as well. Like the rest of his team was kind of duds, but Aaron Jones, Kareem Hunt, and Pat Mahomes, they all had great games. And Aaron Jones, though, people were saying that they didn't think he could get to that 16 touchdowns again this year, but he's gonna prove them wrong. So
yeah, he went almost beast mode in the second half of that game.
He did.
Basically ran through the entire
Detroit Lions defense. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was great. And then Kareem Hunt also had a great game from Cleveland, despite Nick Chubb also having a great game. So they just are a great tandem out of the backfield in Cleveland. So he had 23.1 fantasy.
So Jason, do you think that Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb can successfully be on the same team and put up fantasy relevant numbers each week?
Yes, I do. I think that they have different roles in the lineup, and they have a great offensive line that can support this running. The Saints usually did this too. Like when they had Kamara and Mark Ingram, they often had both of those guys putting up fantasy. Not to this extent, not to 30 points and 20 points necessarily, but enough where you could start Mark Ingram as your running back 2, and then Kamara is obviously your running back 1. So I think that they can do it. It's not something that's often done, but I think they can. So
I just don't know how often that Browns offense is going to be on the field and how often they're going to be playing catch up. Nick Chubb, Nick Chubb is a kind of running back that gets better as the game goes along.
Yeah.
So I don't know if eventually they'll start to favor Chubb over Hunt. This was Chubb's job from before Kareem Hunt was there, and I think he'll probably be favored a little bit more when it comes to touches. And I think Kareem Hunt will be used as a way to keep Chubb fresh for the second half of the year.
I don't know if that's how they're looking at it now. Like, that's how it was last year. And Kareem Hunt wasn't that great last year. Like, he was okay. But I think that Kareem Hunt has kind of carved out his role, so they're kind of like a 1A, 1B in the backfield this year. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting. Week one, Kareem Hunt had 13 carries. And then week 2, he had 10 carries.
Yeah.
He did more with those carries this week. He had 86 yards, averaging 8.6 yards a carry. And obviously the touchdown, which is what boosted him over 20 points.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, so the duds on Go Team Tommy. We had T.Y. Hilton with 4.3 fantasy points, and we had Adam Thielen with 4.6 fantasy points, which surprised me because I think they were down and they were trying to play catch-up most of the game, and Adam Thielen did not get that many fantasy points. And then Will Fuller had a goose egg for Go Team Tommy. I don't know if he was injured and being used as a decoy or what, but he just didn't get used in that game. So
he had a hamstring injury throughout the game.
Yeah, which isn't surprising because that's Will Fuller. So,
and
so anyway,
they didn't even look his way. So
right.
It sounds like it was a decoy.
Yeah. So on to matchup number 5, the last matchup this week, we have Big Ben's Bathroom versus Good Juju, and Good Juju's juggernaut of a team swept through Big Ben's Bathroom, and Kyler Murray and Kamara just kind of led the way to victory. So we have Kyler Murray with 32.14 fantasy points, Alvin Kamara with 33.9 fantasy points. I can't believe I passed on Alvin Kamara instead of Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the draft. I should have totally drafted Kamara.
Well, you know, the reason, last year I had Alvin Kamara, and the reason I chose to not keep him is that there was a lot of uncertainty on his contract situation.
Yep.
I think that ended up getting worked out before our draft happened, but
it did. But then he also
anytime there's that kind of thing, go ahead.
Sorry, he also, in addition to the contract issues, which did get resolved before, but like he also had he got some sort of shot before, like in that same week where his contract was going on, he had some shot for back pain, and so I know that Kamara kind of got hurt last year a little bit, and just a little bit, but Latavius Murray came in for 2 or 3 games and did great. So I thought that maybe this year, especially if Alvin Kamara is starting to feel a little bit of back pain going into the year, that they might kind of go as more of a 1A, 1B, and Kamara wouldn't be as good this year. So I was a little concerned on Kamara, and I was kind of really high on CEH. And we've only had 2 games to kind of see how both of those play out, but Kamara's looking really good.
So far, yeah. Week 1, he only had 16 yards, but he made a big difference in the passing game. This was week 1, 51 yards and a touchdown. This week, 13 carries, 79 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns, on top of 9 receptions for 95 yards in the air. It looks like that they're trying to use Kamara as much as they can, trying to get everything out of him.
Right.
True 3-down back. He's out there on passing situations and running situations.
Yep, that's true. Yeah, and like I said, I wasn't sure how that would break down this year, but looks like he is the workhorse. So he also had Good Juju also had Julian Edelman with 21.9 fantasy points this week. He had a great time because of Cam Newton. So not much more to say on that. I think, Julian Edelman, I think if Cam Newton keeps passing the way he does, Julian Edelman will definitely be valuable, going forward. And then his duds this week.
I have an
Oh, sorry,
interesting
go ahead.
stat for you on
All right.
Edelman. The most Julian Edelman, as we know, he's had Tom Brady as his quarterback, and now he's had Cam Newton.
Yeah.
Did you know that this last week, with Cam Newton, Julian Edelman had his most receiving yards in his career in one game?
I did not know that, but that's good to know.
He had eight receptions for 179 yards.
I mean, that's a big game.
Never had more than that from Tommy.
He didn't have a touchdown either. No touchdown.
Yeah, that's true. He didn't have a touchdown. It could have been more. But I'm just talking yards-wise. This is the most receiving yards he's ever had.
Right. No, that's
an interesting fact.
It is. That definitely is. So, the only dud I could find on Good Juju was Mark Andrews. He had 3.4 fantasy points. So, not great from somebody who you're thinking it might break out and be in that George Kittle or Travis Kelce type role this year.
Yeah, because we know Lamar Jackson loves to throw to tight ends. So I think everybody thought Mark Andrews would be a top 3 tight end this year. At least I did. Also, let's look at the Vikings defense, scoring a measly 3 points.
Yeah.
Suck this.
They do. Yeah, I am not going to pick up the Vikings defense in any game this year because their team, they've just gotten lit up the first 2 weeks. I mean, they did play the Ravens and the Packers, but they also have rookie cornerbacks. Both of them are rookies, I believe, and they just got torched. So.
Yeah, week 1 they played the Packers. You want to take a gander at how many points they scored?
I already know. -9.
-9 points.
Yep.
I don't know what Ryle was thinking starting a defense that had in the previous week, giving up -9 points.
To be honest,
they're currently averaging -3 points a week.
Yeah. No, they're not good. They're not good.
I want no part of them.
Right. All right, moving on to Big Ben's bathroom, who was the unfortunate loser in this matchup. He had Dak Prescott going 39.8 fantasy points and Tyreek Hill with 19.3 fantasy points. So Dak Prescott, let me tell you, them Cowboys offense, because the Cowboys defense stinks, the Cowboys offense is looking good. So basically start anybody you can on that offense, including CeeDee Lamb, the rookie, which is surprising because wide receiver rookies don't usually break out at the beginning of the year, but CeeDee Lamb has been doing pretty good. And their tight end, Dalton Schultz, who has been fantastic the first 2 weeks. So he's someone to keep an eye on for sure. But his only dud, Big Ben's bathroom's only dud, was Allen Robinson with 4.8 fantasy points. Overall, his team had a great week. Just had the unfortunate occurrence of going up against Good Juju. But he did have Saquon Barkley, who unfortunately got hurt. So going forward, he might be having a rough time in the running back department.
I know Chad's really just looking for bodies at this point. He doesn't have much running back depth on his bench either. At least in this week, I haven't seen what his team looked like after the waivers, but before it's looking sparse. And with all these running back injuries, there's not going to be a lot of solid free agents, I feel like, as there have been in years prior.
Right. Well, even with these injuries, like I feel like there isn't anybody replacing them that's really worth huge money, like $55 worth. I don't think there's anybody out there that's worth that. So no,
especially if you're only getting a few weeks out of them.
Exactly. Yeah. For Mike Davis specifically, but even though we're not going to be getting somebody. Like if this would be a different story if it was like Zeke that got hurt or Dalvin Cook that got hurt or Alvin Kamara that got hurt, because they all have bona fide backups that if they come in, they can get 95% of the work that the people in front of them got. But with those two guys, Christian McCaffrey and Saquon, they don't really have that. So So there really haven't been, like you said, there wasn't too many. Like it was a big waiver wire week, but like you're not picking up huge studs from the waiver wire. So speaking of which, we're moving on to the waiver wire team that would kick all of our ass.
Good transition.
I know, and I'm going to this because they didn't look as hot this year, or this week. So we have Ryan Tannehill, who had 26.76 fantasy points. That's pretty good. But then we move on to the running backs. And Jerick McKinnon at 13.7 fantasy points. Dion Lewis with 13.6 fantasy points. And both of those guys kind of filled in for people who got hurt in the second half of the week. Chase Claypool was the wide receiver one of this team. He had 16.3 fantasy points. That's still not great for a wide receiver one. And this guy who I've never heard of called Braxton Berrios had 14.9 fantasy points. I think he plays for the Jets. Is that right? I think so. And the tight end this week, filling in for an injured George Kittle, was Jordan Reed with 20.5 fantasy points. And I should have known that Jordan Reed was going to have a big game. I should have picked him up, but I didn't. I won, but I grabbed Noah Fant anyways. And then the flex is the tight end too. Dalton Schultz, who I talked about earlier. He plays for the Cowboys. He had 17.3 fantasy points, and he had a huge target share. So he's definitely worth keeping an eye on for the future. The defense in this waiver wire team is the Packers, and they had 12 fantasy points this week. And the kicker is Rodrigo Blankenship from the Colts, and he had 15 fantasy points. And they had 150.06 fantasy points. And from what I recall, throughout all of last year, they won. The waiver wire, like random people, top scorers on the waiver wire, they would beat us, every one of us, by like dozens of points. And now they lost. So congratulations, Brandon, for putting up a team that beats the random waiver wire team that I put together. That is like the first time that's ever happened. So that's why I'm saying that the waiver wire wasn't as strong this week, because there just weren't any of those like massive, pickups that we had made. But waivers, I'm going to keep a record of the waivers this year, because this really surprised me that the waiver wire team lost. So they might end up being 16-1 or 15-1.
Time this has happened, right?
Yeah, so I expect them to go 15-1 on us this year, but we'll see. Yeah. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, moving on to the matchup predictions for next week. So, are you ready for this? We're gonna rapid fire through these matchups. Are you ready? Uh-huh. So last week I beat Courts 4-3. So I got 4 of them right. He only got 3 of them right. Let's see if I can do it again. So matchup number 1 is Feast Mode versus the Breeze Knees. So, who do you think? Do you have this pulled up?
I'm trying to, but my computer's slow. Give me a second. You make your pick.
All right, so I'm going to pick myself. I think James Robinson and Deontay Johnson, who I'm slotting into my lineup this week, will lead me to victory. I kind of need a little jump start at the wide receiver position. So I'm hoping Deontay Johnson will kind of provide that boom week that I'm looking for.
Yeah, so I'm looking at Feast Mode versus Breeze Knees. I don't know how you pick against a team that has Zeke and Michael Thomas. I think Drew Brees is going to show out on prime time. So I'm going to be surprisingly picking Adam.
What if Michael Thomas doesn't play this week? He didn't practice today. He has an ankle. He has a high ankle sprain. So
as of now, ESPN has him in.
Has him as questionable.
I'm trying to pull up the full matchup right now.
Yeah, he's in his questionable. He didn't practice today, so just letting you know, keeping you updated.
Since when is there ads on ESPN?
But also, Fantasy? Michael Thomas had 3.2 fantasy points last week, or week 1. He didn't play last week.
Yeah, so I've finally got it pulled up. If Michael Thomas doesn't go, He doesn't have any obvious. I mean, there's obviously no one that's going to replace Michael Thomas. But I'll say if Michael Thomas doesn't go, I will pick Feast Mode.
All right.
How
So,
about that?
all right. So if Michael Thomas is in, he's picking Bree's knees. I'll keep an eye on that so that I can keep track of how I'm going to beat you this week.
We'll see. You'll beat me again. It just sucks being the first person to lose to you. Now we all got to hear your shit for another week. Oh, the reigning champion is back. By the way, that I really do like where you put the trophy this year. I think it's a good spot.
Right here, baby.
I think it'll be back here though. I think it'll be back here next year.
That's going to stay right here next to me all
My
year.
team's off to a slow start this year, but we're gonna pick it up, especially in the expanded playoff format. I think it really does give us a shot,
I think
a better
that's
shot than we
stupid.
normally would have.
I agree. I think it's dumb, and it makes the regular season less important. So that's just my opinion. But we voted for it, so we're all in on it. That's fine with me. So on to matchup number 2. We have Big Ben's bathtub, or whatever he happens to name his team this week, versus my tight end Ertzwin Eifert. So who do you have winning this matchup?
Let's see. I switched over to my phone because it's a little bit faster. I am going to roll with. I do feel like this will be a close one. I think Aaron's team, the tight end Ertzwin Eifert. I think his team is a little bit more deeper than Big Ben's bathtub. Deshaun Watson does scare me a little bit, especially after his performance last week. I just think the overall depth of his team, though, Derrick Henry, Chris Carson, DK Metcalf, who truly passes the eye test if anybody ever did. Yeah. Calvin Ridley, the new number 1 in Atlanta. So that'll be my pick.
All right. I also picked that because, like you said, he actually looked like he's got a dominant team. Like his team is the one that I would have liked to draft. I don't know. He has my optimal lineup from the draft, which is crazy because I was looking at Calvin Ridley, I was looking at DK Metcalf, I was looking at Chris Carson. I love Chris Carson. He just except for Brandon Cooks, which I don't know why he still has Brandon Cooks in his lineup, but I guess he doesn't have any better options on his bench. He doesn't have a bench, so there's that. But if I were him, I'd probably put in. Well, Jamison Crowder looks like he's hurt too. So he's if anybody on his team gets hurt, he doesn't have any depth, but he has a great starting lineup. That's for sure. All right, on to matchup number 3. We have Good Juju versus Zerline. I never hit you. Let's take a look at that matchup, first. And I will tell you who I picked first. Then I am picking Good Juju because his team is monstrous. I think he's going to put a whooping on Zerline and never hit you. He has, Josh. It's tough to Josh Jacobs and Alvin Kamara. It's tough to beat that tandem. So I think I'm gonna and Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins, who could potentially be the running or wide receiver 1 this year. So his team looks dominant. I am very scared of his team. I can't even hang on his team.
I'm looking at Zerline. There's nobody on his team that really, makes me feel like I wouldn't want to play against him in any given week. I mean, Julio Jones, we know that he's starting to get passed up. Devontae Adams, is he playing this week?
I'm not sure, and Julio Jones might not play this week either.
Yeah, I just don't see the wide receiver core that you would need, so I'd have to pick Ryo and get some good juju.
There you go. I agree with you. So right now, the only one if we have a healthy Michael Thomas, we've only been separate on one. So we'll see if we can change that here. Yeah. So matchup number 4 is your matchup, Mix and Mac versus Go-Go Team Tommy. So, who do you have winning this matchup?
Well, this is the battle of the auto pickers. One by choice, one not by choice. I do have to say this team. I don't know whose team it is. Lamar
James's.
Jackson, James Conner, Jonathan Taylor, Chris Godwin, Cooper Cup, Darren Waller. I don't know how you can pick against that team, so I'm gonna go with Mix and Mac.
Is Darren Waller questionable this week? I don't know. He didn't practice today.
He is questionable.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Um,
If only you hadn't dropped your second tight end. I don't know. What happened?
I don't think I'll need him.
Also, do you have Deebo Samuel on your IR, or is he sitting on your bench?
No, he's currently on my bench.
Oh, he's on your IR. He's in your IR. Oh, no, he's not. Why is he on your bench? Put him in the IR slot. Then he could pick up somebody else.
He will be in IR shortly. That's something I've been meaning to do for a couple days.
For a couple weeks. He's been on IR since the beginning of the year. I don't know.
Yeah,
that team did not look as good.
Man.
I might be doing a switch on the fly here, actually. I actually originally had you down. You do have a good-looking team, but I think if Aaron Jones comes out and because New Orleans defense did not look scary to me on Monday, so Aaron Jones I think is going to have a big game. Kareem Hunt against Washington. I guess they have a good front seven though. I don't know. This is tough. Originally, I did have you locked in as the winner, but
I mean, what is going to be fun is Monday Night Football.
Oh yeah,
Lamar
Baltimore,
Jackson,
Kansas City,
dueling in prime time. That's going to be huge, and I think that's going to be huge for our matchup too. Adam Thielen, you gotta think he's gonna put up better numbers considering he is the unquestioned wide receiver 1. T.Y. Hilton, he's kind of old.
He is.
I don't.
Yeah, he's not that good.
Him doing much.
No.
Will Fuller is Will Fuller. I don't see anything on the bench that scares me either.
You're right.
I'm pretty confident.
No, I'm going with the Mix and Mac. I'm sticking with my guns here.
I like to hear.
All right, on to the next matchup. Big Ben's Bathroom versus the Running Mayfields. Who do you have? Oh, I'll go first. I have the Running Mayfields pulling this one because Big Ben's Bathroom is crippled with Saquon Barkley's ACL.
Yeah, that does hurt. I do like how Chad has 2 players on his IR. He's using both those IR spots, not for COVID-related reasons.
Well, that's okay. I mean, it is IR, so all injured.
Yeah, it is what it is. I'm not angry about it at all. Nick Chubb, I think is good. Mike Evans, I think is gonna have another good game. AJ Brown, Hayden Hurst, Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson comes out again with a huge game.
He's playing against Dallas. Great. This is another one where the quarterbacks are playing against each other. Dallas is playing Seattle.
That's true. You're right.
It's going to be a shootout too. There's going to be two big games from Dak and Russell. So
I don't think I can pick against Russell with the streak he's on right now. So I'm going to take the Running Mayfields as well.
I did as well. So we are only maybe separate on one. So maybe, and that's if Michael Thomas doesn't play. If Michael Thomas does play, or no, that's if Michael Thomas does play. If he doesn't play, then you're on the same side as me. So we'll see how that goes this week. All right, very last thing of this episode. This has gone on way too long, Neil. It's been an hour. I said it was going to be a half hour, and obviously
I told you it'd be.
I know. I shortened the template too and everything. It just, I don't know. Everybody just ends up talking. We all end up talking. Like we want to talk to each other or something. I don't know. Anyway, Question number 1 comes in from Courts. Great question, Courts, by the way. What is your worst bad beat? Now, have you had time to think about your worst bad beat, Neil?
I have. It wasn't in this league, and I know that's one of my pet peeves is people talking about other leagues. Exactly. But this question just asked about bad.
It's a general question. Yes.
I think about 3 or 4 years ago. It was Monday Night Football. My running back 2 was in. I was down. I don't remember who it was, but I was down. I think 5 or 6 points coming into the game. For some reason, maybe it was Le'Veon Bell when he was on the Steelers. But I was down 5, 6 points coming into the game. Uh, he, for some reason, they weren't utilizing him in the end zone. He did end up grinding to get 70 some yards, but then in the final 5 minutes of the game, he lost a fumble, and then I ended
Oh
up losing
no,
the game because of that.
that's the worst.
That'd be my bad beat.
Man, that is the worst. Yeah, my bad beat. So I did this because I couldn't think of one like that where like, there's a turnover at the end of the game or, anything like that. But I have one where so my team in 2018 in this league, my team was first in the West Division and coming out of the regular season, and this was when we also had 6 teams going to the playoffs. So Courts and I had a bye. We both had a bye. We round 1 of the playoffs, and then round 2, I'm playing against Rayo in the playoffs, and my team only scores 76 fantasy points after being the number 1 seed in the league. They come back with a stupid 76-point round, and I lose. So that, like, I can't go on to the championship. I don't have a chance to win. Like, it was so frustrating to come in and only get 76 fantasy points. And I remember that too. I remember coming back from that and just my team just crap in the bed. It was so annoying. Like, so that's my bad beat. Like I said, it's not a last second loss or anything like that, but like I come out of this bye and my team is a dominant force, and then they just like that was Mahomes' breakout year. Like I had Mahomes and I picked him up off a waiver wire like at week 1 or whatever, and I was just like killing everybody. So that was unfortunate. Didn't work out, but so that was my worst bad beat. So the last question is, this came in from Adam, and he said, "Thanks for coming back again for a second year." You're welcome, Adam. I wouldn't do anything less. But he was wondering who is going to be the last undefeated team in our league and the last team to get a win in our league.
I'm gonna have to look at the standings for this.
Yeah, right now, the only 3 teams that are 2-0 are Courts, Adam, and Ryo. Adam, you're going to be the next one to lose.
I think Courts' team just isn't deep enough to go undefeated for a long time.
Yeah. Especially since he just lost two of his running backs. So I think Courts is going to lose. I think first Adam is going to lose. He thinks he's so great because he's 2-0, but his team isn't that great. So he's going to lose this week. Did I project him to win? I don't even remember. Shoot. No, I picked. Oh yeah, well he's playing Courts, so no, he's not. Oh, he's playing me. I'm playing against him, so I'm gonna beat him.
Yeah,
he's losing
you're gonna beat him.
Yeah, he's losing this week. So, and I picked Courts' team this week I picked Courts to lose as well. So the only person I have winning this week is Ryo. So I think Ryo's gonna go 3-0. And he's going to be the last one that is undefeated.
Yeah, well, great minds think alike on this one. I just think Ryo's team is very very top heavy. Yeah. His starting lineup is kind of scary. Kyler Murray in year 2 breaking out. We talked about Josh Jacobs and Alvin Kamara already, studs. DeAndre Hopkins, who's still learning that offense, still learning to mesh with Kyle Murray. Once he gets that down, I think he's going to be a huge force to be reckoned with.
I mean, he was good this week.
Juju,
He had 20 fantasy points this week, so
and I think he can even improve.
he can be better, yeah.
Yeah, and Juju is Juju, with Big Ben slinging it like he has been.
Mm-hmm.
I do think Mark Andrews will pick it up. Uh, he was a top 5 tight end last year for a reason. Julian Edelman, we talked about his relationship with Cam and how he is flourishing. Ray might have to get rid of the Vikings D, but overall, I think that's the most solid starting lineup in the league.
It's really good starting lineup. So, who of the 3 teams that don't have a win is going to be the first to get a win? So we have you are 0-2. We have Aaron,
Thanks.
who is 0-2. And we have Big Ben's Bathroom, which is 0-2. Which is Chad.
Well, I'm looking at Mix and Mac right now. This team just looks too strong to be 0-3. I don't think there's any way that happen. I mean, Lamar Jackson, James Conner, Jonathan Taylor. We talked about all these players. Mix and Mac does have a weakness at wide receiver depth. That being said, Mix and Mac picked up not 1 but 2 wide receivers from the Packers this week. And hopefully that issue will be addressed there. So I think they get the win right away. What are your thoughts on Mix and Mac?
I think once James Conner gets hurt, he's going to be in trouble. So I know you have Benny Snell, but he's not James Conner when he's healthy. So, but I think you have a chance to win this week. And actually, I picked you to win this week, so I think you're going to win this week. I believe I picked Aaron's team to win this week against Courts.
I don't know how Aaron's team is 0-2.
Yeah, Aaron has a great team, so I think he's going to win, and I think Chad's going to have a rough time.
I think Chad's team sucks.
Yeah, he's going to be the last to get a win.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you lose your top players like that.
Yeah, it's
going to be tough.
So, yeah, well, that's all we got this week. How do you feel, Neil? We made it in
Jason,
over an hour.
How do you feel about me adding 1 short segment?
It depends. How long is the short segment?
I just wanted to talk about the waivers and who spent what to get who.
I cut that out because it took a lot of time last year. Yeah, go ahead.
We'll just go really quick. Mix and Mac picked up Alan Lazard and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, hoping for one of those wide receivers to break out. The big headline was the Breeze Knees Adam picking up Mike Davis for $45 for a 3-ish week replacement. We'll see how that turns out. Besides, Big Ben's Bathroom spent $55 on Devontae Freeman.
Oh, that was the 55.
Signed with the Giants.
So I was wrong. I flip-flopped those. So 55 on Devontae Freeman.
Yeah, but I think that's just such a high number for somebody who hasn't been getting hit. Contact.
Yeah, and I told Chad this earlier in the chat, but basically I don't think that he is gonna completely fill the Saquon Barkley. Like, he's not as good as Saquon Barkley, and I think that the Giants' offensive line is not that great, so he is gonna struggle. He struggled last year on a very good offense. He struggled, and he knew that offense, and he had thrived in that offense before, but he just didn't anymore. So I don't think he's gonna do what everybody hopes he's going to do, in New York. I don't think that he's going to do it. So,
yeah, those are the only notable ones I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, those are the big ones. Yeah, I didn't make any pickups because I didn't think that, I picked up a defense because I didn't think that anybody else was, better than what I already had on my bench, I guess. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely worth picking up some potential high flyers. Like you said, if one of those Packers wide receivers breaks out, especially this week when Devontae Adams is not potentially not playing, it might be good to have one of them there. So that was a good pickup on your part. But yeah, I think it's been a good week, and I'm looking forward to the next one, starting with this Thursday game between the Jaguars and Miami. Whew, barn burner.
Yeah.
But actually,
barn burner. You took the words out of my mouth. This is a typical early season Thursday night game, if I ever saw one.
Oh yeah. So we'll see how it goes. But anyways, good luck to you, Gooshbagz. Good luck to you, Neil. I hope your team kind of turns around here. And I'm looking forward to this week and watching my team rise to the top.
We'll see.
So I'll catch you guys later. Have a good week. I'll catch you next week.
Peace.